The chapter Pilgrim at Tinker Creek is an extract from a book of same name written by Annie Dillard. The book is a personal narrative revealing the writer's exploration of Tinker Creek in Virginia. In the chapter which you are going to learn, she narrates one incident that she has witnessed at Tinker Creek in order to make some philosophical observations about the creator of the universe. Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. A couple of summers ago, I was walking along the edge of the island to see what I could see in the water and mainly to scare frogs. Frogs have an inelegant way of taking off from invisible positions on the bank just ahead of your feet in dire panic, emitting a froggy yike and splashing into the water. Incredibly, this amused me, and incredibly, it amuses me still. As I walked along the grassy edge of the island, I got better and better at seeing frogs both in and out of the water. I learned to recognize, slowing down, the difference in texture of the light reflected from mud bank, water, grass, or frog. Frogs were flying all around me. At the end of the island, I noticed a small green frog. He was exactly half in and half out of the water, looking like a schematic diagram of an amphibian, and he didn't jump. In the first 3 paragraphs, she speaks about a wonderful and frightening sight. Annie has always enjoyed observing nature. Its mysteries have always charmed her. One day, she walked along the edge of the island to observe river and particularly to scare frogs. As she walked, frogs flew all around her. She has always been amused by the inelegant way the frogs took off from invisible positions. Suddenly, at the end of the island, she noticed a small green frog that didn't move. She wondered why the frog didn't jump, though she tried to scare him as well. He didn't jump. I crept closer. At last I knelt on the island's winter-killed grass, lost, dumbstruck, staring at the frog in the creek just 4 feet away. He was a very small frog with wide, dull eyes, and just as I looked at him, he slowly crumpled and began to sag. The spirit vanished from his eyes as if snuffed. His skin emptied and drooped. His very skull seemed to collapse and settle like a kicked tent. He was shrinking before my eyes like a deflating football. I watched the taut, glistening skin on his shoulders rock and rumble and fall. Soon, part of his skin, formless as a pricked balloon, lay in floating folds like bright scum on top of the water. It was a monstrous and terrifying thing. I gaped, bewildered, appalled. An oval shadow hung in the water behind the drained frog. Then the shadow glided away. The frog's skin back started to sink. Paragraph 2 describes what has actually happened to the frog. You might have noticed that Annie addresses the frog as he and not it. It shows her love for nature. As she looked the frog closely, it began to shrink just like a balloon emptied of air. Life went out of its eyes. The frog became just a covering skin without flesh in it. It was a monstrous sight, and she was really shocked. After a while, only the skin remained. Slowly, the skin, like a bag, began to sink to the bottom of the water. She also refers to an oval shadow which she saw behind the drained frog. I had read about the giant water bug but never seen one. Giant water bug is really the name of the creature, which is an enormous, heavy-bodied brown bug. It eats insects, tadpoles, fish and frogs. Its grasping forelegs are mighty and hooked inward. It seizes a victim with these legs, hugs it tight and paralyzes it with enzymes injected during a vicious bite. That one bite is the only bite that it ever takes. Through the puncture shoot the poisons that dissolve the victim's muscles and bones and organs, all but the skin, and through it the giant water bug sucks out the victim's body, reduced to a juice. This event is quite common in warm fresh water. The frog I saw was being sucked by a giant water bug. I had been kneeling on the island grass when the unrecognizable flap of frog skin settled on the creek bottom, swaying. I stood up and brushed the knees of my pants. I couldn't catch my breath. In this passage, Annie explains the phenomenon that she has just witnessed. The frog was killed by a water bug. The water bug injected an enzyme into the body of the frog. The enzyme injected by the bug dissolved the whole inner content of the frog, even its bones, except the skin, and the juice was consumed by the bug. Here you can see the image of a giant water bug killing a frog. Of course, many carnivorous animals devour their prey alive. The usual method seems to be to subdue the victim by drowning or grasping it so it can't flee, then eating it whole or in a series of bloody bites. Frogs eat everything whole, stuffing prey into their mouths with their thumbs. People have seen frogs with their wide jaws so full of live dragonflies they couldn't close them. Ants don't even have to catch their prey. In the spring, they swam over newly hatched featherless birds in the nest and eat them tiny bite by bite. In this paragraph, Annie speaks about the eating habits of various carnivorous animals, that is, animals that feed on other animals. From the particular incident of the water bug killing the frog, she now moves to a more generalized idea of animals feeding on other animals in this paragraph. That it's rough out there and chancy is no surprise. Every live thing is a survivor on a kind of extended emergency bivouac. But at the same time, we are also created. In the Quran, Allah asks, "The heaven and the earth and all in between, thinkest thou I made them in jest?" It's a good question. What do we think of the created universe spanning an unthinkable void with an unthinkable profusion of forms? Or what do we think of nothingness, those sickening reaches of time in either direction? If the giant water bug was not made in jest, was it then made in earnest? Pascal uses a nice term to describe the notion of the creators once having called forth the universe, turning his back to it. Dues absconditus. Is this what we think happened? Was a sense of it there and God absconded with it, ate it like a wolf who disappears round the edge of the house with a Thanksgiving turkey? In this paragraph, Annie thinks quite philosophically about nature and God. Though God is considered as the creator of the universe, God is invisible. However, we can feel the presence of an invisible creator in the wonders of nature. Nature includes strange things like giant water bug. It is rough out there. There are threats and dangers in nature. Every creature in the universe is created seriously with a purpose. Annie quotes from the Quran where Allah asks whether we think He has created everything without a purpose. Annie remembers a famous concept by the French scientist Pascal, that is Dues absconditus, which means hidden or invisible God. God created the universe and then disappeared. Is it true? This is just one way of looking at God, the creator. Should we think that God escaped like a wolf who took away the Thanksgiving turkey? God is subtle, Einstein said, but not malicious. Again, Einstein said that nature conceals her mystery by means of her essential grandeur, not by her cunning. It could be that God has not absconded but spread as our vision and understanding of the universe have spread to a fabric of spirit and sense so grand and subtle, so powerful in a new way that we can only feel blindly of its hem. In making the thick darkness a swaddling band for the sea, God set bars and doors and said Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further. But have we come even that far? Have we rowed out to the thick darkness, or are we all playing pinochle in the bottom of the boat? Einstein once observed that God is subtle but not malicious. It is so great a concept that it cannot be easily described. The mystery of nature is covered by its grandeur, not by its cunning. God has not escaped, but is spread like a fabric of nature in such a subtle way that we can only feel him, not see him. Annie here refers from the book of Job, where she says, God swaddled the sea with darkness, which means he set a boundary and said, you shall come up to here, but no further. Man has not travelled far in search of knowledge. We have rowed a bit, but not far into the thick darkness. We are only sitting in a boat and playing a card game. And he means that we have not yet completely experienced the mysteries of nature.